like I can start singing or something. uh, I was saying thank you for coming here, and thank you.
That was my bad.
Don't worry. Thank you for having me today. I wanted to bring you on a journey through the images of Lilith. What do we know about Lilith? And first, let me introduce myself. My name is Dandelion, also known as Neil. I am a Jewish, so I am a Kabbalist, and I am more or less pagan-like as well, and I'm a radical fairy. I would want to present you today the figure of Lilith. And my first question to you would be, have you ever heard of Lilith?
Oh yeah.
Heard about it?
Yes.
Good. So what have you heard about that in one single word?
Original.
Okay. Awesome. First woman, original. You got it?
One word. One word.
One word or a couple words?
Mother of vampires.
Mother of vampires. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so it is my theory that there's a constant in pagan spirituality, that we go through these ebbs and flows of censorship and disappearance of a myth and recuperation or revival of the myth. And this is exactly what has happened with the figure of Lilith. Now, who is Lilith? Essentially, she is a mythical creature portrayed as Adam's first wife, is a nocturnal demon that represents chaos, seduction, and ungodliness, and at the same time is a very powerful figure, and it's the symbol of feminine power. It's the first feminist for some authors as well. And the story of Lilith takes a good 4,000 years of ups and downs. First, she appears as a female demon in the ancient Middle East literature, like the Hittites, the Egyptians, the Israelites, the Greeks even appears briefly in the Bible, believe it or not, we talk about that. It appears in incantation books in Iran and Iraq, appears in the Talmud, in the Zohar, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it's very intrinsical part of what we call as Jewish folk magic, amulets, protection for babies, and all this stuff. And finally, modernly, it became a symbol of a feminism, of women's liberation, and of reclaiming and embodying female energy as well. So, let's go back on this journey to the beginnings of Lilith. I don't know if any of you guys know Hebrew, but Laila is the word we use to say night. Laila. And the plural of Laila, that is nights, is Leilot. You see the similarity between Lilith and Leilot. Liliyot and Leilot. Right? So, the name of Lilith already appears first in the Sumerian world. We have the Lilitu. The Lilitu were female demons, wind spirits that lived in the desert, dangerous to infants and pregnant women. And it's important for us to retain this whole idea of the spirits living in the desert, because it will also be a constant throughout the literature in Middle East, but also in like the book of Leviticus in the Bible. It's very important. The spirits living in the desert, that place where apparently there's no life, but yet the spiritual world is present. We also have in the Sumerian world the Ardat Lilith, which is a lady whose breasts are not filled with milk but with poison, and is sexually frustrated, infertile, and aggressive towards young men. and we'll see how this develops in history. Now, in the Mesopotamian Barney relief, there's a terracotta lake from around the 18th century before the Common Era. Essentially, you can see here, and probably it's in your handouts. Those who have handouts, you can show it. This is a prefiguration of Lilith as well. Can somebody read the little text by? Good. Yes, by the square here.
Dandelion Bernie relief shows Lilith as a beautiful naked sylph with bird wings, taloned feet, and hair contained under a cap decorated with several pairs of horns. She stands atop two lions and between two owls, apparently bending them to her will. Lilith's association with the owl, a predatory and nocturnal bird, he speaks of connections of flight and night terrors.
Okay, so here you go. It is way before the Bible, way before our first ideas of relief. We already have this figure, this demon that flies at night, that is identified with the owl, and I was so happy you had your little owl here. That night bird that is kind of scary, but at the same time kind of powerful. Alright, so then later, after this representation, Lilith also appears in the Akkadian creation myth. So what the Akkadians thought as the origins of the world in the second millennium before the Common Era. There's this mighty hero, Gilgamesh, that slays monsters and wants to help the goddess of love and fertility, which is Inanna, in a particular event. Can somebody read the text number one? Number one? Yeah.
After heaven and earth had been separated and mankind had been created, after Anu, Enlil, and Rishkigal had taken possession of heaven, earth, and the underworld, after Enki had set sail for the underworld, and the sea ebbed and flowed in honor of its Lord, on this day, a huluku tree, which had been planted on the banks of the Euphrates and nourished by its waters, was uprooted by the south wind and carried away by the Euphrates. A goddess who was wandering among the banks seized the swaying tree and, at the behest of Anu and Enlil, brought it to Inanna's garden in Uruk. Inanna tended the tree carefully and lovingly. She hoped to have a throne and a bed made for herself from its wood. But after 10 years the tree had matured. But in the meantime she found to her dismay that her hopes could not be fulfilled, because during that time a dragon had built its nest at the foot of the tree. The zoo bird was raising its young in the ground, and the demon Lilith had built her house in the middle. But Gilgamesh, who had heard of Inanna's flight, came to her rescue. He took his heavy shield, killed the dragon with his heavy bronze axe, which weighed 7 talents and 7 minas. Then the zoo bird flew into the mountains with its young, while Lilith, petrified with fear, tore down her house and fled into the wilderness.
Okay, so this is how they perceive the creation of the world. The world is created. Gilgamesh, this superhero, decides to help a goddess raise up this tree and figure out the relationship between the tree and the fertility of the earth, and brings it to Inanna, who is the goddess of fertility. And she is very happy because she's tending the tree and she's gonna make a bed and a throne, meaning she's gonna make a bed for her to have children and a throne to perpetuate her power as a goddess. But the tree gets full of the zoo bird and the demons and this and that, until Gilgamesh comes and cuts this whole thing and takes away the Lilith. And what does the Lilith do? She goes to the desert. The Lilith is that feminine energy perceived as against you and against your baby. And we will see why this happens. The next piece that I find pretty interesting about the ancient Middle East would be a 7th century Syrian incantation ball to be hung in the house of a pregnant woman. Can somebody read number 2?
I'm going to read number 2.
Awesome.
Oh, you who fly in the darkened rooms, be off with you this instant, Lilith, thief, breaker of bones.
Alright, so it's an incantation ball. It's a little ball with a writing and probably some sort of a design, some sort of a names of angels and gods and whatever, to be hung on the wall of a pregnant woman as a protection. Why? Because Lilith is perceived as this presence, this negative presence, that it will be there to make her baby sick or make the pregnancy go wrong. Alright, so as it goes, Lilith appears also in the Bible. And the thing about the Bible in many cases is that since most of us read the Bible in English, we don't realize so much how much of it has been tailored by the translators. Because the nicest thing to hide sirens and unicorns and Liliths and Leviathans, there is plenty in the Bible, is to translate them by weird things and make it everything a little bit more normal. The Bible in itself has gone through many seasons and many times of progressive censorship, but furthermore, the translators have even polished it a little bit more, and we lose the essence of the myth. Can somebody read number 3?
You want me to read the Bible verse at the top or just the verse itself?
The verse itself is good.
Okay. Literal translation. Wild cats shall meet hyenas. Goat weaklings shall greet each other. There too the Lilith shall repose, and find herself a resting place. King James Version. The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl also shall rest there and find for herself a place of rest.
Okay, perfect. So here Isaiah is talking about an image of the desert and destruction and a barren land, and he alludes to the goat demons and to the Lilith. The Lilith being the nocturnal spirit that lives in the desert. Along comes the translator. The first translation is mine from the Hebrew. Along comes the English translation and starts saying, okay, instead of the god demons, let's say the satyrs, instead of the Lilith, we are going to say the screeching owl. But the reality is still there. It's talking about this mythological demon, the Lilith. Can somebody read number 4?
In the Bible, Song of Solomon, New American Bible. See, it is the letter of Solomon. 60 valiant men surrounded, of the valiant men of Israel. All of them expert with the sword, skilled in battle, each with his sword at his side against the terrors of the night.
Awesome. Okay, so here you see one of the most powerful kings of Israel, with his sleeping in a bed surrounded by warriors to protect him from what? It says from the terrors of the night. So the guy had nightmares? Not really. The issue is that if you read it in the Hebrew, it says because of the fears of the Liliths. So they thought of the reality of Lilith coming to you in your sleep as so important that okay, let's go protect the king by surrounding him of warriors with swords in their hands. All right, so doesn't stay in the Bible. We find it again in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Dead Sea Scrolls. At some point, there was this cult, this sect in the 1st century, more or less, that were very much in the margins, really mystical and living in the desert. And they were persecuted, so they buried most of their writings in caves in the Judean desert. And let's see what they say about Lilith. We see, can somebody read number 5?
Dead Sea Scrolls, Exorcism in the Soul for a Sage. And I, the sage, sound the majesty of his beauty, to terrify and confound all the spirits of destroyed angels and the bastard spirits, the demons, Lilith, and those that strike suddenly, to lead astray the spirit of understanding and to make desolate their heart.
Okay, great. So here we see this idea of Lilith being there to destroy. Now, everything that we read until now seems to be kind of painting strokes that doesn't make a lot of sense. But you have to count with the fact that it has been polished and it has been hidden in many cases. So as we were saying about pagan ritual and folk religion, it ends up reappearing a little late in all of its splendor and in all of its detail. In the 1st century of the Common Era, there is this writing called the Alphabet of Ben Sira. Can somebody read number 6?
When God created the first man, Adam, alone, God said it's not good for men to be alone. So God created a woman for him from the earth like him and called her Lilith. Adam and Lilith promptly began to argue with each other. She said, I will not lie below. And he said, I will not lie below but above, since you are fit for being below and I for being above. She said to him, the two of us are equal, since we are both from the earth. And they would not listen to each other. Since Lilith saw how it was, she uttered God's ineffable name and flew away into the air. Adam stood in prayer before his Maker and said, Master of the universe, the woman you give me fled from me. The Holy Blessed One immediately dispatched the 3 angels, Senoi, and Semengaloth, to her to bring her back. God said if she wants to return, well and good. If not, she must accept that 100 of her children will die every day. The angels pursued her and overtook her in the sea, in raging waters, the same waters in which the Egyptians would one day drown, and told her God's orders. And yet she did not want to return. They told her they would drown her in the sea, and she replied, leave me alone. I was only created in order to sicken babies. If they are boys from birth to day 8, I will have power over them. If they are girls from birth to day 20. When they heard her reply, they pleaded with her to come back. She swore to them in the name of the living God that whenever she would see them, or their names or their images on an amulet, she would not overpower that baby. And she accepted that 100 of her children would die every day. Therefore, 100 of the demons die every day. And therefore, we write the names of the 3 angels on amulets of young children. When Lilith sees them, she remembers her oath, and the child is protected in heaven.
Great. So, by the way, these 3 angels, Samangelov, Sansanoi, and Sanoi, are very prominent in the amulets used in the Sephardic world to protect the children against the Lilith. My grandma still had one of those in the house. So here we see kind of a recovery and a refreshing of what's the original story behind the Lilith, or behind Lilith as a demon. So the divine being creates a woman, and the woman gets together with Adam. But the woman is anything but submissive. She says, "No way, I'm going to be a bottom. I want to be a top. I want to be on the top at the relationship," which is symbolic to say, "You are not going to dominate over me. I am my own person. I can make my own decisions," right? So what happens is, in a way, Lilith embodies this feminine power, and she is destructive. Is the first wife before Eve, and she didn't want to, as I say, to lay underneath Adam during sex or be treated as the inferior to man. Now Adam insists that she lives the paradise. However, she is so frustrated that before leaving she utters the tetragrammaton, meaning the sacred name of God that we could only pronounce once a year, and only the high priest, and it has an unlimited power according to Kabbalah. And he utters that name, and consequently she acquires certain powers and flees to the desert. Now we have this whole idea that why is Lilith so interested on screwing your baby? It's not because of she is evil necessarily, but because she is kind of taking revenge of her being expelled from paradise for not wanting to be submissive and not wanting to be inferior to the man, to Adam. This idea, which is quite old, as I say, it's from the 10th century, it is very dear and very interesting for the Kabbalists, the Jewish mystics. So later, around the 13th century, it appears back in the Zohar, which is the book of Expander. It is one of the main texts of Kabbalah. Lilith attempts to tempt innocent men in order to breed evil spirits, and she carries disease. Her first victim, as we said, was Adam, with whom she conceived many spirits and demons, and she is regarded as very promiscuous. Can somebody read number 7?
I'll read it.
Good.
She by her beauty led astray the sons of God, Uzzah and Azael, and she bore them children, and so from her went evil spirits and demons into the world. She wanders about at nighttime, vexing the sons of men, and causing them to defile themselves. Wherever these spirits find people sleeping alone in a house, they hover over them, lay hold of them, and cleave to them, inspire desire in them, and beget from them. They further inflict diseases on them without their being aware. All of this through the diminution of the moon.
Can somebody read number 8?
Zohar. In the Zohar, Lilith's demonic sexuality comes especially to she attempts to seduce men and use her seed to create bodies for her demonic children. The Zohar recommends the performance of a special ritual before sexual intercourse between husband and wife, in which the husband should turn his mind to God and say, "Veiled in velvet, are you here? Loosen, loosen, be your spell. Go not in and go not out. Let there be none of you and nothing of your part." She is the seductive harlot who leads men astray, but when they turn to her, she transforms into the angel of death and kills them.
Okay, so the ancient rabbis observed that people have nocturnal pollutions, and that they assumed that this was only the demoness Lilith trying to have sex with them and to get demons out of it. So the music here. So they abandoned this whole thing about Lilith being there and being a danger at night for what she implies of seducing men and having demons and therefore spreading disease as well. In another episode, she is disguised as the Queen of Sheba and tries to seduce Solomon, but the guards saw her hairy legs, go figure why, and realized she was a beastly imposter. Now, you also have to think that in Kabbalah, God clearly is not masculine. It has a masculine person and a feminine person. The feminine person being the Shekhinah, or the divine presence, so to speak. The Shekhinah, which is the sphere of Malchut in the tree of life of the kingdom, is also the mother of the Jewish people of Israel, right? But Lilith is the negative form of the Shekinah. She is the mother of Israel's apostasy. As a result, she needs a partner. In a way, in the mind of the Kabbalist, God has a partner. This partner is the presence of God, Shekinah. So Lilith, who is the bad presence of the negative image of the world, also needs a partner. And according to the Zohar, she is the wife of Samael, Asmodeus, or Satan. So they pair her with Satan in a way. Now God is concerned that the couple, that is Satan and Lilith, are going to produce many demons. So he castrates Samael / Satan, and that's why Lilith satisfies her passions by seducing men in her sleep. I know it's a little convoluted and a little gruesome sometimes, but here you get the idea of what the Lilith myth is about, at least until the Middle Ages. Problem is, folk religion is not high religion. You may think the religion believes this and that. People find ways of connecting earth religion with what is their religious background, and that's exactly what happened with Lilith. Lilith is supposed to be a bad presence for children. So as I was saying, people make amulets with the name of Lilith and the three angels, the San Senori, San Mangelof, and etc., to protect the child. But they also are very adamant at not leaving the newborn baby alone at night. I would say it's because of infant son mortality, but on the other hand, because of this idea, okay, the kid is just born, they are in danger, let's protect them from the Lilith. There is also a legend in Sephardic North African folklore that it says, if you see your baby smile or laugh while he is asleep or she is asleep, you should wake him up because he is playing with Lilith. Take it for what it is. The figure of Lilith has been fascinating, not only in a religious kind of way, but also at the artistic and literary level. Michelangelo portrayed Lilith as half woman, half serpent, coiled around the tree of knowledge. Dante Rossetti, a poet, wrote, "Her enchanted hair was the first gold, and even if not a drop of her blood was human." Theseus describes her as a beautiful woman. And here at the end, we have an image of Lady Lilith by Dante Gabriel Rossetti in the 19th century. So she is depicted as this seductress. Every time you see Lilith in a painting, it's never with nice hairdo or with bind hair, but it's like with crazy hair and very, very voluptuous, right? Because she is there to represent the feminine energy that seduces and that resents any sort of oppression from the man. Okay, so what happened with the figure of Lilith, which probably talks more to us, to our days, is that, oh yeah, I wanted to mention as well that in the literary aspect, that C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia, sure somebody of you must have read that. The White Witch is portrayed as the daughter of Lilith. She tries to destroy humanity by imposing a perpetual freeze on Narnia, so that it is never, there is always winter but never Christmas. You know, Lilith kind of permeates through literature. So, getting back to our conclusion, what does Lilith mean for us today? Well, the contemporary feminist movement has presented Lilith as a bold struggle for independence from Adam. In particular, there's a writer and philosopher named Judith Blasco that presented a new interpretation of the myth. Lilith doesn't want to be subservient to Adam, so she decides to abandon the paradise. The divine being decides to create Eve, but Lilith is lonely and wants to re-enter the paradise. Adams invents all sorts of lies about Lilith. She's killing babies, she's trying to seduce young men, all sorts of lies. Why? Because she's afraid that this powerful woman goes back to paradise and meets Eve, which is exactly what ends happening at the end of the story. One day, Eve sees Lilith on the other side of the wall, and she decides to exit the paradise. Realizing that they are both women and they have much in common, they become close friends. A friendship that frightens Adam and the divine being because it's not a threat to their power and their stability. From there, we have all sorts of derivates from this story. We have even a scholarly magazine called Lilith, Jewish feminist magazine. And there is also the Lilith Fair, which is an annual musical festival whose profits go to battered women's shelters and breast cancer research. So, to make the story short, we have this demon, this dangerous figure that may not be so dangerous or so negative, that represents the power of women and the embodiment and the grounding. And I thought that it was very apropos that in a celebration of Beltane we bring this earth energy and this spirit of the feminine that is fertilizing the earth. I hope it wasn't too dense or brainy. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
I think it was great.
Very accurate, very accurate.
So she tried seducing Solomon and they caught her in the
Right, because the Bible talks about this story of the Queen of Sheba being there to seduce Solomon. The Midrash, which is the legends parallel to the rabbi, say, oh, the Queen of Sheba in fact was Lilith, and she was about to do it, but the guardians saw that she had hairy legs, which also tells you. Hmm? Yes, yes, in a way. But also think about that. Why hairy legs? On one hand, because of all she is depicted as this demon and whatever, but also the fact that a woman shaves her legs, at least culturally, in order to be attractive and to be subservient to the desire of the male. By the fact that Lilith says, I'm not doing it, they discovered that it was not the Queen of Sheba, but it was a demon.
That still happens today in different ways.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.